have an obligation to reproduce, according to the Bible. Is it the will of God that every person puts forth what is necessary to do this thing? As a general rule, yes, it is, because He commanded us as a whole to go forth and multiply. This is seen more as a command to the whole rather than a command to individuals. Yet Adam and Eve certainly individually felt the command to do that. Case in point. So here we have ourselves in the modern world where we are. A lot of people deciding, oh, they shouldn't have kids. Why? Not financially stable enough. Oh, I remember that verse. If you are not financially stable enough, don't have... No. I don't remember that verse at all. Oh, well, be irresponsible. I'm going to be honest with you. It is blown way out of proportion. The cost of having children is actually quite low. The medical bills are the first thing that people worry about. Usually, the government will actually just pay those for you. Or if you're low income, the hospital can't make you pay it, ever. Or, see, there are options here, actually, quite a few. You have a child, medical bills will not be the problem. It would be raising that kiddo. But kiddos are a blessing from God. They are the continuation of life, by the way, from one generation to the next. And we do have an obligation to our families. You're supposed to honor your father and mother, and one of the ways that you do that is by having a family of your own. One of the ways that you do that. So there are obligations to God through family, through nature, through our purpose, to have children. Yes, there are. When are these obligations lifted? And it would be an exception, by the way, not the norm, because we are commanded to multiply. We are commanded to cleave to each other and become one in unity. This is also in Genesis, so we're going off of that Genesis command there for a moment. When we are told, well, having children wouldn't be a good idea, but you better not have any more kids, that's 2, no more, things like this. Wow, could you think you can really afford a kid? You're horrible with money. Okay, well, there are responsibilities that we have that if we are fulfilling will allow us to be able to have children and also to raise them, all of this in the correct way. Married people are supposed to be having children, not single people. Married people. So what is the exception to this rule? The exception being those who are unmarried, or if you're living a life like Paul, for instance, where he says that not every man has that drive to have a family. Jesus says that too. Paul says it's good to remain single, both male and female, if you're going to devote yourself completely and totally to God in some way. This would be an exception again to the rule. And he makes it clear as well that this is his take, not God's command. A command that we would remain single would be contrary to nature. It would be contrary to the way that God made us naturally to be, is what I mean. So, for men, that would be an example of why. For women who are born with the instinct, the maternal instinct, to have children, to have husband, to have family, when they have children, they statistically, by the way, are much more happy than women who do not. I'm talking about women who become married and have children rather than career women, because you really only get one or the other. Career women. Anyway, these are the happier people, the happier women. Now we are born with native born instincts. Jesus says some men don't have the instinct to have a family, and that's fine. Women are born with the instinct to have a family, to have children. And if they tell you, no, I don't want kids, that is learned. That is a learned trait. The instinct is to be married and have children. That is the instinct. It's the way that we're made. So now we're going to approach this from the female perspective for a moment. What are the instances in which a woman would not be having children, even if she is married, right? One, she's sterile. That just is sad. That's a sad thing. And in the Old Testament, we read about this quite a bit, most often in conjunction with a blessing of God on that woman and her husband to be able to have a child. Okay? Because this is the blessing of marriage, is that the man has children through the woman and they have a family together. Okay? Women having children through their husband is what we see. And this is God's plan. This brings joy in your life. Horrible road. To do something else would be to, live very selfishly. We see that a lot, living very selfishly. Well, if I have kids, I'm going to have to give up this, I'm going to have to give up that. Oh no. Correct. Self-sacrifice is part and parcel. It goes hand in hand. It's one and the other with having children, obviously. Because kids need you, and they can't take care of themselves. They can't teach themselves. And we are commanded also to teach our children about God. All right. So what other women would not be having children? I keep going back to why having kids is a good thing and our responsibilities, because that's where my mind goes. If a woman has a medical condition, perhaps, that if she were to become pregnant, could result in her death, perhaps, right? Obviously, that would be a bad thing. And that would be a conversation between her and her husband to have. In any case, more than likely, if you ask me, okay, I'm going to be Paul for a second. If you ask me, it seems like she could provide things other than having children through living rather than in dying to have potentially one, or also potentially just to die in the process and lose the kid as well. We don't want that. No, nobody wants that. So we as men, we love our wives. That is the command. Love your wife. We love our wives as though they were a part of our own selves, because they are also commanded to be. So now another example, if you've had perhaps several children and now you are at the point where having another could potentially result in catastrophic medical happenings, God forbid, then it could be time to stop as well. So these are all negative examples, though, obviously, because to not have children is a negative thing. Not have children in marriage is always a negative thing. We are, we were blessed low infant mortality rate. Not the case anymore. For example, the United States has one of the highest infant mortalities of the modern world. We can't keep babies alive. All this that we do to keep babies alive is killing them. Or parents even, shoot. The number of, I don't even want to talk about it, but irresponsible parents. And this is just it. Because if you aren't right, then you will not be able to have children the right way. You will not be able to raise children the right way. To the point that you can't even keep them alive in infancy. Disgusts me. Absolutely, it disgusts me. Okay, now, having children is a blessing. Having children is the natural way of things that God has planned for us. And so we do have an obligation to reproduce. We have an obligation to have children. We have an obligation to have children through family units. That is how to have children. It should be a natural progression of a woman being married to a man and children resulting from that love that they share between them. That is what children are meant to demonstrate, is the love of a successful marriage, because it brings joy to the home. It brings literal fruitfulness, as God commanded, go forth and multiply, be fruitful and multiply. And so there it is. We do. Obviously, we have a reproductive obligation. But the reason why and how to do that properly have been lost. They've been lost on us. All you see now are unwed mothers, women who were impregnated outside of marriage and remained outside of marriage. And those are not the worst examples either that I could give. Step-parents, it turns out badly quite often, but fatherless homes are even worse. Many times this is the result of the modern societal norms, because women are told, you don't need a man. I mean, that's not even in dispute, I don't think. Of course that's the case, everybody sees this. And to the point that men are actually, perhaps for a different video, but men are very much frowned upon. We'll just leave it at that. Now, as a man, my instinct is to have family, to be married, to have children, to have a whole village of children. I've said this before to other Christian men that I know. That's my instinct, is I want to have a village of children. That sounds amazing. Can you imagine that? That'd be outstanding. Okay. Anyway, and that should be the instinct for most men. Most men. And I understand marriage prospects are not great. So, it is what it is. Don't feel badly if you can't find a wife. Or a husband, perhaps. But I'm going to tell you right now, God will not give you a wife or a husband if you aren't right with Him. If you aren't completely, utterly devoted to Him, He is not going to give you someone who will be devoted to you. End of story. And if Satan gives you somebody, oh Lord. Every time you make big waves in your life, gentlemen, you're going to watch a Jezebel pop out of nowhere and try to get herself involved with you. Well, don't fall for it. Ladies, I know there are no shortage of men out there willing to give you attention. Be looking for the right one. Because if he isn't devoted to God, probably going to have more difficulty in leading a home than he otherwise would, obviously. I'm going to leave it there. Good luck. Wish you well.